The hardest part for me hitting financial rock bottom is that I knew better. I was an accountant. I was working at the time at my family's business. I was the staff accountant for this multi-million dollar industrial company. And yet I was bouncing checks. I was in collections and I had allowed my heart to hijack my wallet. I did a lot of things in the name of love that I would not have normally done.
Gloria Steinem once said, "We will never solve the feminization of power until we solve the masculinity of wealth." Barbara Provost and Maggie Nielsen are the team at Purse Strings that will help you navigate the ins and outs of financial independence so that you can be financially fearless. This is Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about.
Christine, welcome to the podcast. We are thrilled to have you on because, man, I think this is going to be a juicy, juicy story for the audience. So before we dive in, can you share who you are and what you do?
Yes. My name is Christine Luken. I'm known as the Financial Dignity Coach. I have been coaching people on their personal finances for close to 2 decades now. So I like to say I'm one of the OGs of financial coaching because I feel like I spent like the first 7 years of my coaching explaining to people what a financial coach is. And now I feel like they're everywhere. I did not get into coaching because I have always done things perfectly with my finances. In fact, it's quite the opposite. So in my 20s, I was in a 7-year relationship and eventually became engaged to this guy who I jokingly say he was more like my son than a partner financially. He just had very bad financial habits. He was in and out of jobs, even in and out of jail. And I thought that if I just loved him enough that he would change. And he did. He got worse. So yeah, it's funny now. It wasn't 30-ish years ago, 25 years ago. But I think the hardest part for me hitting financial rock bottom is that I knew better. I was an accountant. I was working at the time at my family's business. I was the staff accountant for this multi-million dollar industrial company. And yet I was bouncing checks. I was in collections and I had allowed my heart to hijack my wallet. I did a lot of things in the name of love that I would not have normally done. I think the hardest part for me was reaching out for help because I was afraid I was going to be judged. I was afraid my parents were going to say, "I told you so." Thank God they didn't.
There's nothing worse than an "I told you so."
I know. And I think they were just very relieved that, okay, good, she's finally seen the light. But they didn't rescue me from my financial messes. My dad said, "Look, I'm not going to lend you money. I'm not going to pay off your debt. But, what we will do is give you a safe place to regroup, and I will help you create a plan to rectify your finances." So I was able to move back home for a couple of months rent-free, which was a great blessing, but it was also very humbling. And yeah, obviously not having a grown man child to take care of anymore, my finances got better pretty quickly. And I just got really curious about why do smart people, especially smart women like me, who were on the honor roll and had an accounting degree, why do we do dumb things with money despite having the knowledge? And that's when I realized it's because of our emotions. And back then, so my rock bottom moment was back in 2000, no one was talking about the emotional side of money back then. It was pretty much Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, and here's your checklist of things to do. Here's your roadmap, just follow this plan. And if for some reason you can't stick to it, there's something wrong with you or you have no self-discipline. And that just rubbed me the wrong way. And I said, there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's when I started really mining my own experience, really, and just saying why did I make this mistake? And if I were to do this again, what could I do to prevent myself from doing this? What sort of tools would have been helpful, or even just the self-awareness to have around this particular issue with spending or financially enabling somebody? And so I started to build this toolbox of emotional money tools that I would teach and coach people on alongside the basics of personal finance. It's not like we're throwing those tangible, practical things out. It's like, let's bring these emotional tools alongside of the budgeting and the debt reduction and the saving and investing, so that when we hit these emotional roadblocks that keep us from going forward, we've got a tool to get ourselves over that hump.
So my question first is, what was rock bottom for you? Like, it's been a rocky road for a long time, but at what point were you like, okay, I'm done? Did you take a look at your debt, or?
Well, it actually wasn't. It wasn't financial. It wasn't financial, and I'm happy to tell you the story because I actually do talk about it in the opening chapter of my book, Financial Dignity After Divorce, and it was the cops were at the door. They were looking for my fiance. He had had 2 DUIs in 6 months, and he was not fulfilling what he was supposed to fulfill because of those DUIs. And so the cops woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I had my cookies and milk pajamas on. My dog at my side, who was barking up a storm, and the cops asked if they could come in, and I searched the apartment, and I said, yeah, you can come in. And so I'm holding my dog's collar, and my dog is barking because there are 2 strange men in my house. And one of the cops said to me, you need to control your dog, otherwise I'm going to shoot him.
Oh my God.
And I said, officer, you're a stranger in my house. My dog is doing his job. He's protecting me. Let me put him in the bathroom. If you want to search it first, that's fine. But this is not his fault. He's doing what he's supposed to do. And so he agreed. They searched the whole apartment. And then they left because he wasn't there. And as soon as they left, I let my dog out of the bathroom and I slid down the wall into a puddle of tears. And I just hugged my dog and I thought, I'm done. I am done living like this. And for a lot of women, it's not just the financial stuff. There's all these other emotional things that are happening. And so it wasn't just the fact that he was misbehaving with the money. There was substance abuse. There was a lot of other dysfunction that was going on. There was obviously a lack of respect for me. And sometimes we need that moment to say, this is the line. And for a lot of women, it's not themselves. It's their kids or their pet, where they're just like, we're done here. And sometimes that's what it takes to get us to say, enough is enough.
It's interesting how sometimes we do need something bigger than ourselves to get us to do it, which is also like, why aren't we enough to do it for ourselves? Which can be hard. And I don't know. I don't have the answers. Like, I've been in situations where, thank God something else was there to push you forward, right? Because other days, the days get long. And so I think many women stay longer than they should many times, especially when money's involved. So what are some of those emotional patterns that you see that keep women stuck in relationships that are hurting them financially and otherwise?
Yeah. Well, I do think part of it is, as women, we have been raised to collaborate and to nurture. So for men, they've been raised to compete and provide. And so for them to pursue money and for men to pursue financial success, it's seen as, oh, this is, of course the man's going to do this because he's going to take care of his family. But when women do it, it's seen as you're abandoning the family, which is very, very interesting. And so I think some of that is, as a society, and we as women, we have to remind ourselves and each other that you taking care of you is the best thing that you can do for your family.
Let's take a quick pause to hear from this week's episode sponsor.
Divorce can shake your confidence, not just emotionally, but financially. And in those moments, you deserve guidance that brings clarity instead of fear. Hi, I'm Margarita Chang, certified financial planner, retirement income certified professional, certified divorce financial analyst, and CEO of Blue Ocean Global Wealth. I help women going through divorce gain clarity, confidence, and control over their personal finances so they can make decisions that truly support their future. At Blue Ocean Global Wealth, we focus on financial planning first because accessing competent ethical advice should not depend on the size of your investment portfolio. Every woman deserves to feel financially confident, empowered, and resilient, especially during a life transition as significant as divorce. Visit blueoceanglobalwealth.com to learn more about how financial planning can help you navigate divorce with greater clarity and peace of mind.
Now back to our show.
Yeah, I mean, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? We have to be taking care of ourselves and not putting everyone else first.
Yeah, it's hard because, especially for women who are parents, that's your first instinct is to take care of your child above and beyond yourself. However, if you are doing things that are to your detriment and you're not operating at 100%, then it's going to be much harder for you to be a good parent or be a loving spouse if your cup is empty. Exactly.
I just think so often as women, we get into these relationships, and as you say, we collaborate, we try to nurture, we don't want to rock the boat too much, and things happen that we gradually just keep accepting, right? And really, it's financial abuse is what it is. Let's put a name to it. But it's things like not sharing information about the money, not giving access to certain money, things like that, where questioning money. And we see this a lot. And sometimes women will say, well, if I don't bring the income into the household, I'm just taking care of the children. It's really his money or he's in charge. And that's not true. It's not true at all. And so I think after a while, things compound, and then we find ourselves in these situations where it was like, I just didn't know. I mean, so many women will come to us and say, gosh, I should have, I could have, why didn't I? I trusted, all of these things. And I feel bad for them, but at Purse Strings, that's what we're trying to say is have these conversations, check on this information. So can you share a little bit of what are the red flags that typically will fly around us and we should be paying attention to? And what are some shifts that women can do to make some changes for themselves?
Yeah, well, I think it really is about advocating for yourself. And so I think this one mind shift really can open women's eyes. When you think about being in a committed relationship or a marriage where you are sharing finances, your marriage is essentially a joint venture. It's a business that you and your spouse own equally. And so whether someone is doing the income generation or managing the expenses, it doesn't matter. So if you think of a traditional company, it doesn't matter that somebody is in sales and bringing the customers in. They're no more important than the person that is in charge of HR or the person that's working on the factory floor or in the shipping and receiving department. It's the same thing in your marriage. It doesn't matter if you're the one doing the grocery shopping and buying the things for the household and you're bringing in an income, or one person's bringing in all the income. You and your spouse are 50-50 owners of your marriage and your finances. And so both of you are important. Both of you should have decision-making power, and both of you should have full access to the information. Obviously, the sooner you have these conversations, the better. And one thing I always tell couples is, look, before you get engaged, you need to get financially naked. You've already gotten physically naked by this point. There's no reason why you shouldn't become financially naked, because if you are going to enter into a marriage, you're essentially going into business with somebody. You would never go into business with somebody without knowing their financial situation. So just making that one little shift to say, it's like we almost feel like money and love are like oil and water. Like, I don't want to ruin the romance by talking about money. Well, let me tell you, nothing ruins the romance worse than not talking about money and then finding out the real story afterwards.
Ain't that the truth? Whew. Like, I kind of want to get back to your story. You moved in with your parents. I'm sure you had a lot of income then freed up to pay down some of your debts. How did you kind of prepare yourself to go into another relationship to kind of trust yourself that this wouldn't happen again, or to have yourself on those right tracks so, we don't just repeat the process? Because that's so easy to do. And I think so many women hold that fear that they can no longer trust themselves, which is hard.
Yeah. So here's the funny story. I met my husband at work. So I was working for the family business. I was working in the accounting department. I was also doing some stuff in the HR function as well. So I had access to Nick's credit score. I had access to Nick's background check.
Oh my gosh. I don't think you're supposed to say that.
Well, as the HR person, I had access to everybody's stuff. So, but what was interesting is that my brother was like, after I broke up with my ex, my brother said something. He goes, you know what? He's like, you need to date a guy like Nick. He bought his first house, he fixed it up and he flipped it, and he's just bought his second house. He doesn't have a car payment. He's putting money into his 401k. He's just doing like really smart things. You should date someone like him. And then I was like, Nick. And I'm like, he is kind of cute.
We can't just go by the finances. We've got to go by some looks, some personality as well.
Yes. And then when we started dating, it was almost like when I was hanging out with my former friend group, and when I broke off that relationship, besides my best friend, I pretty much broke it off with that entire friend group because there was a lot of dysfunction. None of them were handling their finances well. And so when Nick and I started dating, it's one thing to have your parents tell you, here's the smart thing to do with money. It's another thing to have someone who is your peer show you what to do with money. And he was just a wonderful example of being a good saver and investing early and doing all of the smart things, and also not caring about what other people thought about him and his decisions. Because on our first date, it was so funny because he said, hey, I just need you to know, I am going out this weekend and I'm picking up my newer car. It was a newer used car. So don't be alarmed when this car stalls at stop signs. It always starts back up. It's one of those things. When I stop, it just stalls, but it always restarts. Just know that we're moving up with the car. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, well, is your car paid for? And he said, yes. And I said, do you have car insurance? And he's like, yes. And I said, do you have a driver's license? And he said, yes. And I said, well, then this is a step up for me. And he said, you have low standards.
All right, Nick.
And I was like, yes, I probably do.
That's pretty awesome. So that's great that you met him right away and he was able to be open and transparent about that. And it's funny that I think we all have something in our lives that we might be like financially embarrassed about, like kind of like his car, but he's got to preface it, no, this is not forever. I'm just in between. I'm getting a new one. Don't worry about me. This isn't the MO.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and it was so refreshing that he would just talk openly about it. He basically said, I've been saving up for X amount of months. Here's the car I'm going to get. I've saved up cash for it because I don't want to have a car loan. And just having those open conversations was very refreshing because The other conversations I used to hear was just about that I'm broke and can I borrow $20 until payday?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, something you said is you are kind of the person with whom you hang around with, right? Like who are the, what, 5 or 6 people that you hang around with? And that's kind of your peer group. And so you're very similar to them. So they always say, hey, you should play up, right? Get in the rooms with people who have more, do more, know more, or whatever it is that you want to learn about.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I just made that move in January. I just joined an angel investing group in January because I knew that I'm in a very comfortable place now and I have a sizable net worth. And it's also like, okay, what's the next step? What's the move that's going to put me in the room with other women who are playing at my level and above? And it was a little scary to join because I felt like I'm the dumbest person in the room here because I don't know what I don't know about angel investing. You know, despite having an accounting degree and being a financial coach, there's a lot of stuff I don't know about this.
Well, and that's how we learn, right? Get with the people who know and soak it all up.
Tell us a bit about the work that you're doing now, because I know you help women who have gone through similar things. So tell us a little bit more about that and how you help them.
Yeah, so I coach both single women and couples, and there are a lot of women who are coming out of divorce. So most of my clients' income is not the issue. It is managing that income. So when you've gone through something that's very emotionally draining, it can feel like you don't have a lot of energy left over to make good decisions with your money. And that's the time usually when those kinds of women come to me where they say, you know, look, I'm going to get child support. I'm going to get a settlement. I need to make sure that I'm handling this the right way. And some of them, maybe it's been a while since they've handled their finances by themselves. These are smart women. It's just they don't know what they don't know, and they need someone to come in, help them get organized, help them to set up a system that is going to give them good feedback so that they can see, here's where I am, here's where I need to course correct. And also, I think it gives them permission to relax and splurge on themselves too. When they know that all the important things are being taken care of, then they can spend on the vacation without guilt.
And that's a much better relaxing vacation.
Yes, 100%.
A lot more relaxing when you know you can afford it and enjoy it.
Yes, 100%. Or that it's not taking away from another important goal that you have.
Right. And so for some women listening who are seeing some of these patterns in themselves, can you share like a small shift or two women can make to start separating their emotions from their financial decisions?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You can't turn off your emotions. So you can't separate them completely. Here's the way I like to describe it, is that you have these two voices in your head at once at all times, so to speak. You have the voice of reason, which tells you all those important things like we should budget, we should save, we should pay off our debt. But then you also have the voice of emotion. Now, the voice of logic is kind of like that classical music station that you like hear in the elevators or in department stores. But your emotions are like the top 40 radio station, where 1 minute it's this loud Beyonce, booming song, and then it shifts into this sweet love song by Ed Sheeran, right? So our emotional volume is always up and down. What we want to do when we're making an important financial decision is just check in and ask ourselves, how loud is my emotional volume right now? And if it's very loud, then we need to give ourselves the gift of time to say, okay, I need to let this emotional volume come down so that I can also hear the voice of reason. Because I think our emotions and our intuition, those are very important things, especially us as women. Because how many times have we had this nagging feeling that we should or shouldn't do something, And we have said, no, this doesn't make any sense. I need to do the logical thing. And then we find out a week later, 2 months later, I should have listened to my intuition, right? So it's not a matter of one is better than the other. It's we want to be able to hear both of them. And so for especially my divorcing clients, emotions can run really high. And I just tell them, like, look, we need to give them a productive outlet. So if your emotion is anger and you need to get that out, go take a kickboxing class. Like, go put on your running shoes and hit the pavement. Whatever you need to do to get that angry energy out of your body. If you're feeling sad, go watch The Notebook or another movie that makes you cry. Like, don't cry over your own situation, but give yourself a productive way to get those tears out. Because when you try to hold them in, it only makes it worse. Your emotional volume only continues to get higher and higher. So let's just let it rip and get it out.
You're going to make us feel our feelings, aren't you?
Exactly. But then on the backside of it, even though you may still feel a little residual anger, you might still feel a little residual sadness, it's not going to be so loud that you can't make a good decision. And I always tell people you want to filter your financial decisions through, is this good for me now and later? Because sometimes we just think, I want to do this because this is good for me now because it releases the pressure. It makes me feel better in the moment. But we need to also say, a year from now or even a week from now, am I going to look back on this situation and say, I should have done something different?
Yeah, that's a great tip. I mean, to be able to hear both, like you kind of said, even the volumes, if it's not at 10, maybe it's down to a 4 or 5. And so you can hear everything a little bit more on both ends.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I bring in the coaching with women who are going through divorce is that I have the ability to help them almost immediately pull that emotional volume down and show them, like, okay, like, let's get centered, let's deal with the emotions, and then let's look at this financial decision.
And you did say at your turning point, you reached out for help, even though you had those feelings of, oh boy, I'm going to get it coming at me like, oh yeah, you should have known better, blah, blah, blah. Who wants to hear that? Nobody.
No.
Sounds like you reached out to your parents, right?
I did. I reached out to my dad, and thankfully he did not say, I told you so. He was probably just saying, thank God she's finally come to her senses.
Yeah. So when women are feeling financially stuck and really need to make a change, they can reach out to you or other coaches who feel like, okay, I know that I'm listening to the volume of the decisions I'm making. I realize something's got to change here. I don't know where to turn. Turn to a financial coach.
Yeah. And financial dignity is part of my branding. I actually own the trademark to financial dignity because I feel so strongly about that. And to me, financial dignity is the opposite of money shame. And so it's normal for us to feel guilty when we've done something wrong. But the problem is we internalize that guilt rather than saying, I made a mistake with money, I did this bad thing. We turn it into shame and say, I'm a bad person because I did this. And unfortunately, shame makes us want to hide. And when we hide, we don't get the help that we need, and we don't get the knowledge, and then we end up repeating the process. So when you're feeling that shame, even though the last thing you want to do is tell somebody about it, the best thing that you can do is tell somebody about it. Now, unfortunately, I have heard some horror stories of both men and women who have gotten a big shame sandwich from their financial planner or their CPA or another financial professional. So you do need to vet whoever it is that you're going to be confiding in to make sure that they're also an emotionally safe person to talk to. And I think many women naturally reach out to another woman, whether it's a financial planner, CPA, or a financial coach like me.
And so with everything happening right now in 2026, it's been quite the year. rising costs, uncertainty, more women rethinking their relationships and independence. What would you say to a woman who feels financially stuck but know she needs to make a change?
Well, I think the worst thing you can do is stay in the stuckness, right? We need to move forward. My dad always told me you can't steer a parked car. So you need to start moving, and then you can course correct. And so as you start moving forward, you may not exactly be going in the right direction, but that's okay. You're moving forward, you're taking steps. And I think one of the things that holds people back is a lack of knowledge, and also being overwhelmed by all the knowledge that's out there financially. So it's not like 25 years ago where you just walk into the bookstore and there were 5 books on personal finance. Now it's like everybody on TikTok is a financial influencer, and you're like, I don't even know if this is AI. I don't even know if this is a real person. Where do I find this knowledge? And so getting out there and finding sources like this podcast and connecting with real people who have the experience that you can start learning from. Because I think some of the fear is, I don't know, so I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake. But even once you have the knowledge, there can still be some fear around, am I going to make a mistake or not? And yeah, you probably are. We all do. We don't do this perfectly. With any other aspect of our lives, whether you're talking money or health or parenting or your relationships, it's this evolution and growth over a lifetime. Getting the knowledge, taking the steps, and course correcting, that's a part of life, and it's also a part of your finances.
Yeah, I love that. And you're so right about just some movement needs to be done, right? It just needs to make a move. And all the social media, I always kind of joke that anything you say about finances, there's always a little asterisk of like, it depends. And so you have to connect with somebody to be like, yes, but for me, Maggie Nielsen, is this a good choice? For you, Christine Luken, is that a good choice? Because our good choices are going to be so different depending on our dependence, our age, our goals, everything else. And so a lot of this knowledge, like, yeah, don't carry a ton of high interest debt is going to apply to everybody. But most of the things are, it depends. It depends. What do you want? And you got to really figure that out first. So this has been a great conversation. And there is a question that we do like to ask all of our guests. And so going through this whole journey and now even being an angel investor, which is so exciting, what does financial freedom mean to you?
Financial freedom to me means that I can relax deep down inside. No, it doesn't necessarily mean that I have everything that I want right now, but what it means is that I have choices and I have agency over my finances. So it's not being in a place of perfection. I like to say money's job is to support your happiness. And I think that's like an upward spiral. When I work with my clients, my goal is to get them to that place where they can say, all right, I may not even be exactly where I want to be right now, but by and large, money is supporting my happiness and I'm on the journey and this is going to continue. So removing that money shame, being free from money shame for sure, but knowing if it comes back because I've made a mistake, that I have the tools that I can recover from this, that I have faith in myself, that even if I do make a bad decision, that I have the resilience to overcome that, to learn from that, and use that as a stepping stone.
I love it. That's great. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. We're going to have your links to your coaching and your book all in the show notes so people can connect with you. But yeah, we appreciate you sharing your story and just being vulnerable, as I know it's not always fun in the time, right? But now we can look back and laugh and show the uphill strides that we've made. Till next time, be financially fearless. You've been listening to Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about. Now it's time to take what you've learned and make bold moves towards financial independence. Stay in the know by joining our newsletter for exclusive tools, resources, and updates that keep you financially fearless. Head to pursestrings.co and sign up today. Need a financial professional who gets it? turn to Purse String's curated directory, your go-to resource for financial experts who know how to put you first. Love this episode? Leave us a review and help us empower even more women to own their financial power. Until next time, be financially fearless.